All right, and we are live. So, welcome everyone to another episode of Pretty Powerful Conversations. And tonight I have three of my partners in crime, as I like to refer to them, because they truly are my partners in crime. Like, yeah, they're professional women, but we have history. And they all know where the skeletons are buried. So that's how close we truly are. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Carey, and I do pretty powerful conversations here on LinkedIn Live. And I'm kind of sporadic. I'm here and there on Thursday evenings. So just make sure that you are following me so that you can get an alert for when I do go live. And tonight I have with me Dr. Tiffany Jenkins, Dr. Tracy Hardy Daniel, right? Or Daniel Hardy?
Daniel Hardy.
Daniel Hardy, Dr. Tracy. And then I have my friend, she been with me for a long time, y'all, like back in the day, homegirl, Jermaine Gordon. And so these women and we are here to talk about that PhD, working towards a PhD, and how we are often disrespected, and some people have a problem addressing us as doctor, and why that is a issue when it comes to minority women. So I ask that if you are joining us on any of the platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, go ahead. You can leave comments, and we're going to try and bring some of the comments in. I ask that you are respectful. We do have respectful conversations. And if you don't agree with what we're saying, keep scrolling, click out. But we're not here to cause confusion. We're just really here to bring education and enlightenment and to talk about it from our perspective and our experience. So that's usually what my platform is used for. So, ladies, we're gonna do go round robin, let you all introduce yourselves because I think you'll do a better job than me. So starting with Dr. Tiffany or Dr. J, as she likes to be referred to.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Tiffany Jenkins. I am a probably the only EDD on the panel, but I completed my doctorate in organizational leadership with a concentration in behavioral health. I've been a therapist for over 20 years, and I'm currently in private practice. And yeah, that's enough.
All right, Dr. Tracy.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Tracy Daniel Hardy, and I am an educator. I'm actually a director of technology in a public school district in Mississippi, and I obtained a PhD in educational leadership in 2012, and I'm here for the conversation.
All right, and Jermaine.
My name is Jermaine Sibley Gordon. I have my master's in movement therapy, and I'm a registered dance movement therapist. Specialize in holistic health and wellness, and working towards my doctorate with a focus on neurodiversity and creativity in education.
And as you all know, I'm Dr. Carey, and I have a PhD in higher education, leadership, and research. I have background in social work, was a social worker for over 20 years, also a college professor who actually taught research courses and social work courses. So, but my background, I would always be the professor that they would stick in the research classes who actually like teaching research, and currently doing qualitative research for tech companies in the DEI space through my own company, I Think Change. So, ladies, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. So, as you and I have discussed, we have discussed a few weeks ago. This whole panel discussion came about because I made the mistake of commenting on someone's post that stated that when individuals who have a doctorate degree and demand that you refer to them as doctor, that you are being arrogant, and that we need to learn how to not be arrogant and allow people to call us by our first names. This rubbed me the wrong way for several reasons. The first reason that it rubbed me the wrong way was that it was a black man telling all of LinkedIn that it's okay to call us by our first names. The second reason that it rubbed me the wrong way was because I knew what I had went through as a black woman to obtain my PhD. And so it's not like we went out and purchased these degrees. Because some people they go and they go purchase a doctorate degree, and I ain't gonna get into that. But the majority of us, we put in some blood, sweat, tears, a little bit more tears with sacrificing family. We give a lot to obtain our doctorate degrees and the titles that go with it. The third thing that pissed me off was someone stated that whatever the person who is writing my paycheck decides to call me, I need to be respectful of that because they are paying me. So if they decide to call me Miss or Mrs., that my job is just to be quiet and take whatever title they give me because they are paying me. And so at that point, I was like, we need to dispel some myths, because the first myth is I don't care who or what is writing me a check. On the check, you have to put Dr. Carey
Dr.
Yazid.
Carey,
Because my bank account says Dr. Carey Yazid, and my credit card say Dr. Carey Yazid. So if none of that says anything else, my title is saying my email is Dr. Carey Yazid at gmail.com. So, and I don't know why you gonna call me Mrs. because I'm divorced. I'm not Miss because I've been married. And people stopped calling me Miss MS on May 15, 2015 when I got my doctorate degree. So I wasn't understanding what the issue was. Is it arrogance? No. It's something that I feel that I worked for. And going to the statistics, out of all of the doctorate degrees that they give in the United States, only 4% of them are given to Black women. Hence why I have a panel of Black women on here tonight. So that has been my experience, is that I know the microaggressions I had to go through, racism that I had to go through, and I got my PhD from LSU. It wasn't a cakewalk. I had to endure a lot. I had a dad who was on dialysis, had kidney failure, and he actually died 4 months after I got my PhD. So for me, I know what I had to put in to get that degree. And so for me, it is a matter of respect, but it's also my title. Like it's not me being arrogant, and it's not me trying to make you feel bad because you don't have a doctorate degree. But I feel I did the work. So, ladies, what do you think? What have your experiences been? Because this is an emotional subject for me, to say the least.
I mean, I feel like I know for me, I've gotten, oh, you didn't get a real doctorate because it's an EDD and not a PhD. And for me personally, my decision to get the EDD was based on the concentration. I wanted a practice related degree and not a theory related degree because of just who I am as a person. So there were some folks who were like, well, you're a therapist, but you're not a psychologist because you don't have a PsyD. You don't have a real doctorate. It's, that's not, oh, you didn't do that much. It's not real. And then I got it online from an online university because the university that I chose had the program that was most aligned with my goals, not because it was any easier. And so there are a lot of folks that are like, oh, well, you shouldn't write that. You shouldn't, nobody should really have to call you doctor because it's not that big of a deal. Okay, I still spent 5 years of my life away from my children who are now 16 and 17, away from my husband, not away from, but like it took a lot to get here because I did an online program. There was a lot of a learning curve that I had to go through because I didn't have a cohort that I could go and sit with and learn from and exchange information from. I had to create my own network. At the time I was doing my degree, I was running um I switched. I started off running a multi-site methadone maintenance program. And I was the clinical director over 3 sites. So I was doing that. Then I juggled to being an executive director at a smaller site. And then I opened my own private practice, all while getting this degree, all while maintaining a 3.5, because in my program, if you got less than a B, you were out of the program. So for someone to come and tell me that they don't have to respect, and I'm like, you doc, it's everywhere. When I got it, I was joking with my kids and I said, by the time I cross this stage, y'all gonna have to call me Dr. Mom for like ever. And it was a joke, but it was just kind of that sense of this immense accomplishment. Not to mention, I was the first person in my immediate family to get a master's, right? So my parents went to high school. My grandparents went to high school and they all completed those things. My great grandparents were sharecroppers. So for me, this carries a tremendous weight because I'm not just carrying me. You're not just respecting me when you say Dr. J. And I am probably one of the most laid back people that you will ever meet. So it's not really about being approachable. If you knew me, you would know that I'm approachable, but I'm not disrespectable. And that's the difference. You can't talk about the way that I identify myself because it makes you uncomfortable. That's a you problem. It's not a me problem, right? Like I tell people all the time, are you intimidated or am I intimidating? If you're intimidated, that's your work that you need to do. If I am somehow coming across as intimidating, then that's my work. And that's something that I have to do. But what we're not going to do is confuse the two. And you will put the necessary respect on my name until you write something that is 170 pages long, until you have surveyed. And I did a quantitative study. So I had to, devise the instrument and then put it out there and then do the statistical analysis and all that other kind of stuff. Until you've done something like that, don't tell me what I deserve to be called. And I don't really care who's signing the paychecks, because at the end of the day, the whole reason why I am Dr. J is so that I get to determine my destiny. I get to determine how I show up. And if you don't like that, guess what, sweetheart? I can take me and all of my doctoral deliciousness somewhere else. You don't have to respect me. It's absolutely fine. But I am going to respect me enough to know that this is what I have worked my behind off for. And Doc, because I've called you a couple times, like, okay, remind me why I'm torturing myself this way. Remind me why I'm doing this, when there are people who just go and buy it, when there are people who go and fake it and just, throw some credentials together and don't really have it. But it was important to me because of the legacy that I'm trying to build, not only for me personally, but for my family and everybody that comes after me. So it's non-negotiable.
And you made some good points too. Like, a lot of people don't realize that many of us, I know I'm first generation as well. So I was the first female in my family to have a bachelor's degree, but I was the first person in my family to have a master's degree. And I'm the only person in my family to have a PhD. My dad finished 8th grade. My mom had some college. My grandparents were sharecroppers. So like, I'm not that far removed. I will tell people, like, my paternal grandparents are buried in a slave cemetery in Point Coupee Parish, Louisiana. So we're not that far removed from slavery. So these accomplishments that we have made as Black women, not just Blacks, but as Black women, and some of us are first generation, this is huge for us. And so
Mhm.
it's a lot more to it than you just calling us doctor. There's some history behind why this is so important to us.
Mhm.
Dr. Tracy, what's your story? 'Cause I know you got a story.
Yeah, so here's the other part of it. We as Black women have to do twice as much, work twice as hard in most instances to be seen as equal. And so, because of that, many of us, start to journey along this trek to become EDD, PhD candidates, and then actually getting our degrees so that we can just be heard. And so when we do that and we put in the work and all the late nights, the time that you give up, I mean, I can remember not even going to church for a year. My dining room table was my desk, and remember not being a part of so much that I used to enjoy being a part of as I dedicated my time, energy, efforts, and sacrificing mind, body, and soul for this, that it is worth getting, but it's also worth getting that respect. I remember my supervisor at the time that I was working on my PhD saying, "Are you going to be one of those people who demand someone call them doctor this or doctor that?" I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "Because it doesn't negate that I have it. So you can call me whatever you want to call me. I choose how I answer to you." And so there are some who call me just Doc. There's some who call me Dr. Tracy, some who call Dr. Daniel, Dr. Daniel. There are a variety of things. And then there are times when a particular person has a way of saying your name, Tracy. Tracy, and the you can feel it behind them that they are purposefully not putting the title on your name. And I pause every time they do it and I look at them. And then I will respond if I have a response. If not, I'll just keep on walking because you can feel the venom and the vindictiveness behind it. There are also some environments where the first you're on a first name basis and they call everybody like that. But there are also some environments where they only call the men who have doctorates, doctor whatever, doctor whatever. And so in those cases, then I will begin to refer to myself as doctor. But other than that, I don't usually refer to that myself that way. But if you're going to call all the men in the room that, then you need to call me that too. If you're going to list them all in the program that way, you need to list me too, because we put in the work just like they did. We didn't buy this degree. Some of them bought it, but we didn't. And so you should respect us in the same way.
Ma'am. Yes, yeah, amen. Yes, yes, ma'am. You made up for church just now. Cause you definitely right about you walk in a room and the person just refuses to call you by your title. And I think it irritates me if it's I've never met you. I've never met you, and you immediately deflect to Carrie. And I will pause for a second and say, I know they sent me an email, and the email said Dr. Carey Yazid. I know on the phone I said, this is Dr. Carey. On what earth did they decide that Carey was okay? And I think we done froze. Can y'all hear me? So we froze for a second.
We can
Um,
hear you.
And so only family members call me Carrie, and my good friends, and I have Jermaine on here tonight because she was one of the first people when I was finishing up my studies and I had defended, and she was one of those people that I reached out to like, girl, I did it. And so she said, okay, how do you want me to refer to you? And I paused for a second and I was like, Jermaine, like, we go back. And she's just like, you have earned a PhD. Do you need me to call you Dr. Carey, like Dr. Yazid? Like, what do you want? And I was like, oh girl, I'm still Carey to you. Like, we played in the sandbox. So I'm Carey to you. Now when she got something important to tell me, she'd be like, Dr. Carey. I need to talk to you for a second. But you know, on a regular, she's my girl and we go way back. But if I've never met you, what makes you think that it's okay for you to and we're in a professional setting and you have decided that you are going to deflect to Carey. And I've had students to do this in a higher education setting. Those have been the ones that have irked me. And I will send out an email and say, you need to refer to me as Dr. Carey, Dr. Carey Yazid, or Professor Yazid, but do not refer to me by my first name. I will make it very, no, I give you all these other options. And then I will still have the student that insists on calling me Carey. And then they wonder why I stop answering. Because I've already told you what I will answer to. You're making a conscious choice that this is no longer about your education, but it's about you trying to get on my nerves at this point. That's how I look.
If you from the South,
And I'm
you
from
have to refer to people as Miss, Mrs., Mr., older people. You do not call them by their first name. So then that adds another layer of disrespect on top of it.
But
When
then
I get
Dr.
vendors
Trace,
that email me, go
we
ahead. I'm
went to
sorry.
HBCUs. You went to Alcorn. I went to Southern.
Yes.
Who we gonna walk up there and call? Oh, Reginald. And
No, nobody. Nobody.
you gonna get dragged across the whole campus by that professor, probably get called into the dean's office like, have you lost your mind? And
Right.
we're a different generation. I understand that. But I don't know. But Jermaine, I'm gonna let you talk because Jermaine is actually working on her doctorate degree. And I thought it would be a good mix for us to actually hear from someone who is in the process. And because I think a lot of times, you know, people look at us and it's just like, oh, well, you have it, but you still don't understand the journey. And I wanted someone here to talk about the journey and what it's like that they're married, they have kids, they're involved in the community. She also has a vibrant career. So Jermaine, tell us about your journey. And you've started and stopped a couple of times, as I did as well.
Yeah, I'm in the and can y'all see me? Because y'all are like a couple of seconds behind. But anyway, I'm in the process now of like where I have had to stop because I needed to refocus because the program that I'm in has changed and it's like, and they've made some faculty changes that don't really reflect what I want to work in. So I've had to make some more change, like look at changing to another program. But I will say I have the very unique experience, very blessed experience of 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 growing up with an aunt who had her PhD in multicultural education, and she was a professor at Alcorn State, and I got the chance to spend time with her over the summer, and so I grew up seeing that. I grew up, having not just like PhD, MDs, MBAs. Like I had the privilege of seeing that. So that's why I will say to somebody, or I'll call them outright and say, "Hey, Dr. So and so," and then they tell me, "I'm just Joe to you. I'm not doctor. Just Joe. Just call me Joe." And so I'll put that on there. Or like I knew somebody before and it's like, "Oh, Dr. Dr. Mason." And it's like, "Girl, no, it's just Jan," whatever their name is. It's like, it's just Jan, and so I'll say it. And then I've had some people be like, they may have known that person before they got their PhD, and then they'll do that. "I don't care. I'm still calling them so-and-so." And it's like, I know you knew them way back when, but they worked hard. I think they're deserving, even like though they're your friend, just say, hey, congratulations, Dr. So-and-so. Don't be like, yeah, I know you Dr. So-and-so, but I'm still calling you, and it's like, don't do that, So for me, because I grew up and understood that sort of respect, for me, it's really about being able to say, okay, I'm going to call you this, and then you tell me, or I will ask, what do you prefer to be called? Before I say anything, I'm just not going to assume. I just think that's just so blatant. I went to PWI, so I called my professors, some of them by their first names, and that's just what they wanted. And that it is what it is. But, I'm just not going to go in and say, hey, so-and-so, when it's Dr. Jones is teaching a class, I'm not going to say, no, hey, Jim. No, this person has way more experience than I have, and I need to show them the respect for that experience and that research, because they may be a mentor to me, and how I look disrespecting them, if they could be a mentor to somebody that I can learn from. And so, like I said, for me, like I said, I really had that the honor of, and just looked up to her. She's still kicking it. Looked up to her, and really just saw how graceful she was. And you all on her license plate, it was on her license plate, you knew who that was. Dr. Smith, you knew who it was. And just never thought not to look at her that way, or to say, I call her aunt first name, but I don't call her Dr. Smith. But it's just that thing that gets me with people. It's like, ask them. We into the she, her, hers, them, they, theirs. Well, what's your pronouns? You ask, what's your pronouns? But then if somebody says, well, I'm Dr. So-and-so, okay, Carey, okay, but you want to know my pronouns, but you're not going to say what I prefer to be called. Just saying. I'm going to leave it at that, because I'm like, y'all, come on. We going to pick and choose what we do when we calling people names? We picking and choosing?
My pronouns just changed, and they are cite me and pay me.
And I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
My pronouns are cite me and pay me. You don't want to call me Dr. Carey, that's fine, but I'm going to need you to cite me, and I'm going to need you to pay me. And when you write that check, on that check, I need it to say Dr. Carey,
Dr. Carey,
you gonna put some respect on my name some kind of way. So when people talk about what's your pronouns, that's my pronouns. Cite me and pay me. As a Black woman, you call me he, she, they, them. I don't care. Cite me and pay me. They're my pronouns. You don't want to address me by my title. Ask me what my pronouns are. Cite me and pay me. Then we're going to have a whole discussion over why are those your pronouns? Because, see, y'all don't want to respect me as a Black woman with a PhD. Mm-hmm. You want to steal my work, and y'all know I had that whole rant. But you don't want to respect us with our titles, but our work and our research that we do is good enough for people to lift and go and take it and use it as their own.
Yes.
But you don't want to give us the credit. But we the Black women that went out here, did the research, stayed up late nights, didn't go to church for a whole year. I was crying on my bathroom floor. I don't know how many times I met Jesus in the bathroom with a methodology book that I ain't understand what this woman was talking about this class, but she was the gatekeeper and I had to pass that class. And me and Jesus had a lot of meetings on my bathroom floor at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that was the only time I had to read before I had to become a mom, before I had to become a professor, before I had to become a clinician, and then make sure your dad got to where he needed to be with dialysis appointment and be a PhD student. So again, I appreciate people like Jermaine, who's just like, you don't know what they went through. At least give them the courtesy and ask them. But I think for me, it just really irks me when I'm telling you and you choose to still show that level of disrespect. I want to talk about those who feel that we're being arrogant. Because I get that a lot. That us, and I don't demand. I just, I insist that you come, because I think an insist and a demand might be a little bit different. If you choose not to, I'm just not going to answer. But people have said, well, you all are arrogant. This is a level of arrogance when you insist that we refer to you by Dr. J or Dr. Tracy, or whatever. That there's an arrogance, and that we need to learn how to humble ourselves.
So here's
Why?
the problem. Yeah.
Why?
But if the definition of arrogant is that I have an exaggerated sense of who I am, right? Like, it is an exaggerated sense of my importance, an exaggerated sense of my abilities. No, sweetie, when I got that doctorate and when I defended it, I became an expert in my field. That's not arrogance, that's expertise. Again, go to your dictionary, learn the difference. Because if I have dedicated 5 years of my life to studying a specific topic, that makes me now the expert in that thing. Does it mean that I know everything that there is to know? No, but I know enough to know where to go and get whatever I need to update that wealth of knowledge and where not to. I know the difference between YouTube, not YouTube, Google research and actual scientific research. I contributed to the latter, not the former. And so I am an expert in my field. You don't go into your anesthesiologist office or your pulmonologist office and say, "Hey, Jack, can you just do so?" No, you have no problem calling that man or that woman doctor and appreciating the time and experience that they have in their field. Why should I be any different? And so I'm not arrogant because I earned my place to be here. I am the expert. Respectfully, I am the expert here. When you can amass the amount of knowledge that I have, I think our dissertations needed a minimum of 250 sources. So when you have read 250 to 300 articles, actually it's more than that. It's only the 250 that made the cut. When you can read 250 to 300 articles and figure out what is missing from those articles that the world still needs to know, and then craft a plan to give the world what they need to know, and then deliver on that plan, and then make further recommendations, then I'll call you doctor. Because wait, you would have earned it.
Preach.
It's not arrogance.
It's
Preach.
confidence. It's
It's
confidence.
confidence. Yeah.
It's confidence. Can we
My
pause
question
for
is
just
this.
a moment, Dr. Carey? There's a Chris deputy who needs to be caught up on your Cite Me, Pay Me.
I
Can you
know. I
catch him
saw
up?
that. Let me bring Chris up real quick. So Chris said, "I only have an associate, so please pardon my ignorance. When we cite a doctor to back our stance in an argument, are we supposed to pay for that citation?"
No.
So Chris, that kind of goes two ways. Actually, some of your academic journals do require you to pay for the article. So that's not what I'm talking about. Cite me is yes. Cite me when you use my information. So you are correct on that. Pay me is when you're going out here and you're developing curriculums based off of the research that I have done. You have not cited me, but you are also going to monetize my research for your gain, and I get nothing out of it. And so that's kind of what I mean, where our work is being stolen. And Chris, you can kind of catch up with me on the whole Brene Brown thing, because that's kind of where some of this comes from for me, is that I am a critic of some of her ideology, not her as an individual, not her as a professional, but some of her ideology. And there have been others who have taken my articles, shared them, and then been invited to do paid speaking engagements to speak on my research and my critique as an expert. And so that is where it comes in, where we are talking about us actually being paid for the work that we have done. So like Dr. J said, you've written this dissertation that's based on hours of research, hours of you going back and looking at other people's research to find a gap in the research, coming up with the conclusion based on your research, but then someone takes her research and goes out and develops a whole curriculum. Not only do they not cite her, but she's not even getting paid for it. And that's what we're finding happening a lot in the academic space, but in the real world in general, especially with Black women who have PhDs, is that our work is being stolen and we are not being compensated fairly. So that's what I mean by that, Chris. So no, that was a great question, and I thank you so much for asking that, Chris, because a lot of people don't know that. So Jermaine, you had a question. So what's your question, Jermaine?
No, and my thought is this too. As women, we're talking about this. But is this a race? Or are we looking at more of a gender issue? Because if we were men, would we be having this conversation? Even Black men, would we be having this conversation?
Well, actually, this started with the Black man who was saying
Yeah,
that
to you as a woman. But would he have said that to another man?
On LinkedIn, he was saying this to everybody.
Yeah.
I just happened to comment on his post.
So remember the confusion about Dr. Jill Biden?
That's what I was getting. Yes.
So that was very interesting how the media and the journalists decided that they were just going to call her Jill Biden, and she was like, "No, we're not going to do that." And their argument was, and someone mentioned this before, I think it was you, Dr. TJ, was that they don't hesitate at all to call someone with a medical degree doctor, but they want to question us, and they'll say, well, you don't have you're not a medical doctor. And sometimes they'll frown, no, I'm not, I'm not a medical doctor, but I earned this. And then some of them who are just plain old ignorant about the process, they don't know that many times you put in similar work, not the same, but similar work in time, in terms of your time, effort, money, all of that. We're talking about several years worth of work, 4 or 5 years in some instances. I know people who have spent even longer doing that, but you have put in the work. And as Dr. J said, that you are now the expert in that area. So why not be called the expert in that area? And so I don't even remember what happened at the end of all of that confrontation with Dr. Jill Biden, but she stood her ground and said, I'm a professor. That's what they need to call me. But they wanted to argue that you're not a MD, so why should we call you that? That was disgraceful to me. And that goes back to what you were saying.
That is a argument that I have heard a lot, especially on the internet. And it usually comes from individuals who do not have any doctorate degree whatsoever. Is that, well, you don't have a medical degree. And my thing is, I've seen some of you go into a medical doctor's office and you don't want to address the medical doctor as doctor. Like, it's just an issue, period, which I think goes back to what Dr. J said at the very beginning. That's a you issue. That's not a me issue. That's a you issue, because each of us, no matter what letters we have behind our name, what our credentials are, we did the work to get to where we are. Now, another point I want to touch on before we close was that so I'm going back to this post. So what made me stop and comment on this post? Because y'all know Jesus told me to keep scrolling. And y'all know sometimes I'll be defiant. And so that was one of the days I was defiant and I ain't listening to God. And I stopped and I commented, and God said, well, you gonna deal with these crazy people. I told you keep on scrolling. So, but what made me stop and comment was, it was a Black, it was a sister, African-American woman, who was working on her doctorate degree in social work. So she was getting a clinical doctorate in social work, which is a DSW. She wasn't getting a PhD. And she stated in her comment that it made her uncomfortable when the Black professors insisted that you call them doctor. They seemed unapproachable, but she felt more comfortable when the white professors insisted that she called them by their first names. And so therefore she didn't see what all of the confusion was about. Now my first man said, Carrie, don't go there. Because I want to say, you don't understand yet because you ain't crossed the finish line as to why those Black professors, who are probably women, because if you are in a department of social work field is predominantly women. So she was talking about Black women. She didn't even have to say it. I know it because I've been there. So those Black women made you uncomfortable as a Black woman because they were like, no, you need to put doctor in front of my name. But their white colleagues said, no, it's okay if you call me Jane. It's okay if you call me Susan, Hillary, or whatever. And so your comfort shifted to them because you felt you didn't have to be formal with them. And she didn't understand, why was it so important? Why was the formality being pushed? And why was she being expected to conform? And that was when I went and commented in regards to what those Black women had went through to get those PhDs and why they insisted you and everybody else in that program was going to call them doctor. And it's not just you as a student, it's everybody at the university that has to call them doctor. Because probably behind closed doors, everything that we've discussed tonight, those women have been through it. But especially in higher education, behind closed doors, sitting at the table in those faculty meetings, they have had colleagues to call them by their first name and refer to everybody else by Dr. So-and-so. And that's when at some point they said, you know what, I sacrificed too much. It took me too long and I worked too hard to get to where I am, where anyone else is going to disrespect me. And
There's
so
so
they
many arguments for that, for those struggles that, make us that way. There's so many arguments, and some they cannot relate to because they have not had to have that struggle themselves personally or even historically with the people that look and act like them.
I agree. And someone in the comments said, like, does she not know our 400-year history? And we do have to take that into consideration too. As I stated, and as Dr. J stated, we are both first generations. And so I think a lot of times it escapes even African Americans, those who are descendants of slaves. That means that they were born here and they are descendants of slaves, that they forget that we are not that far removed from slavery. Like when I tell you my grandparents are buried in a slave cemetery, that means that my great grandparents were slaves. Like I'm not that far removed. My parents happen to be the babies of the families of where my grandparents had 13 and 20 kids. So yeah, I have aunts and uncles that are deceased, but they're like 100 years old. But we forget that as Blacks, we haven't had freedom that long. We haven't had the right to education that long. I was a part of DSEG in East Baton Rouge Parish. Like I was one of them little kids that they sent on a bus, and I had to take an hour ride across town to go get a middle school education with some kids who didn't look like me and with teachers who didn't look like me, who always reminded me that I was an exception. But what the elementary school that I came from, nobody was an exception. All of us was created equal. And if he can't read, you're going to sit there and teach him how to read. But by the time all y'all get out of this class of first grade, everybody going to be on the same reading level because we don't have special ed because they won't give us money for special ed. So everybody finished on a certain, there was no special education. We helped each other. So I didn't know what this you are an exception was. But then I went into an environment where I was felt to like I was excluded. And I think when we talk about DEI, people really don't understand what equity and inclusion means for us. Like you think you think you have an idea, but you don't know our stories. and you don't know what we went through, that we are the first in our families. And these PhDs and these EDDs and these DSWs and MDs and whatever other doctorate degree they have out there, that if we have earned it, trust me, we went through hell and back to get it. It wasn't an easy journey for us. And it doesn't matter if you went in person, if you was online, even if you bought it, they made it hard for you. I'm just saying. So, ladies, as we close out, we got some comments in here. So let's see. We have Dr. Tracy Bennett Carter, and she said, I work too hard for my degree, and I tell folk you can call me whatever you want. You just make sure you put doctor in front of it. Yes, yes, Dr. Carter. Yes, amen. Go ahead, girlfriend. Yes, yes, yes. And then we have someone else who said it was against the law for us to read at one time. Our people had to sneak into libraries in the 50s, and we were excluded from most universities. This is true. When we think about universities that were desegregated, that was not that long ago. I was born in 69. Civil rights movements was in the late 50s and 60s. Mississippi, when they started desegregating universities. Alabama, we have prominent cases where people were tortured, and there were mobs outside to keep them from going in to get an education. That wasn't that long ago.
Because those people, a lot of those people who were, the first to be, are still alive.
Yes, that's the other thing. They are not deceased. A lot of them are still alive and living nice little healthy lives. They were the first. They were the first. Let's see. Let me find another one. Do y'all see any? Because y'all in the comments too. So you have someone else that says it's also good to recognize the huge obstacles Black women have to overcome to get that degree, given our history and lack of societal support. Extra respect is due. How much support did you all have? And Jermaine, how much support are you getting in regards to like your university and society in general? We know family is always going to support us, but how is it, society and just your program in general?
Well, for me, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to change programs, because I feel like because the journey can be long and arduous, if that's the right word, I needed a better support system. And because of my background, and this has always been an issue with me, just finding different just different professors who could support and understand like the research and what I want to do. And especially being from Louisiana, I had somebody tell me when I first started my PhD journey and I was looking and trying to get in touch with professors, and somebody told me point blank, you must be really creative. I don't think you'd really do well here. So I was like, okay, so you can't be creative and have a PhD. But, I think for me though, with that too, like I said, with having an aunt who was a professor at Alcorn, I remember she had me with her when her and another cousin of mine one summer, and it was at some sort of summer program, and we was doing things, and my cousin just wasn't cutting it. She was just like, why am I here? I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. And I was excited. I was glad. And I remember my aunt saying, I didn't realize you were so lazy. I just didn't realize that. And she was looking at my cousin. She's like, I just didn't realize you were so lazy. And I'm like, wow. And so now as I get older, I realized for her, because she had gone through all this blood, sweat, and tears to get this PhD, anything less than excellence was just like not acceptable. And her thing was like, no, like, do you know what I did for y'all to even do this? And you're not doing it. So, for me though, like the support of the university, yeah, I might be creative, but that doesn't mean that I don't deserve the credential myself. But also too, I understand about, even with that, about pushing through it, because I remember my aunt being like, it's not, no, you can't be lazy here. I got you up here for this summer thing. No laziness. That's just not acceptable. So for me, it's like knowing I deserve to be at the table, and also having that experience of knowing, like, okay, because I deserve to be at the table, I'm gonna keep riding it until somebody says, okay, we can help you. So
Yes, yes, yes. We all deserve to sit at the table, eat in all our creative glory. Dr. J, what was your support like? 'Cause I know your husband Daryl came to the rescue many a times, but what was it like, society and also your program? Because you and I had some conversations.
Yeah, so I am fortunate enough that I have two, wait, one, two, three really close friends. From one of my friends that we grew up from elementary school together. She had completed her DSW, I think, a year or two before I finished mine. And then two of my high school classmates, one has a PhD in geochemistry, phenomenal Black woman, Dr. Cynthia Hall. And then the other one has her PhD in bioanthropology, Dr. Robin Nelson Crute. Those three, because they intricately understood the process, were like literally, I didn't even have to call them. They would call me and say, okay, I haven't seen you posting. Does that mean you working, or like, what are you doing? And if I didn't return phone calls in, their reasonable amount of time, they would kind of bone rush me and say, okay, what's going on? Where are you at in the process? I'll never forget when I had to do my proposal review. One of the reviewers fell asleep and started snoring in my proposal review. Like, when I say snoring, I mean like really deep snoring. And then said, and this was somebody who was I guess I shouldn't give too many other details because they might be identifying information, but this is someone who had a bit of clout, I'll say, with the university. And she started to snore, and my committee, who up until the very end, I had an all white committee. So here is this brown girl from Camden, New Jersey, once named one of the most deadly cities at this point. And it's almost like, wow, am I doing that bad that I put this woman to sleep? And my heart sank in that moment. And I reached for my phone. I will never forget this. I had a chat group with some of my cohort members that I had met through the process at the university. And I text them and I said, she's sleeping right now. I quit. And when I tell you my phone was on the money, you are not. Nope, this is her stuff. This is not yours. What's going on right now? Well, my chair went offline. She's trying to call her. She doesn't realize her microphone is still on. She's telling us she has some technical difficulties. I'm like, technical difficulty, my foot. I can hear this woman snoring. Like, it's over. I'm not gonna pass my initial proposal review. Blah blah blah. They're like, if you don't shut up, you are the most prepared. Like, and I had folks like that who could literally, like, in the heart of the process, speak life into me when I was ready to quit, because it took enough to just get to that process. She ended up, giving me what they said later was one of the best reviews they'd ever heard her give anybody. And I'm like, because she felt guilty. They were like, no, because you did the work. Like, even in those moments, they wouldn't let me kind of play down my skill and the work that I had put in to get there. My husband is the reason why I decided to finish, to even start my doctoral journey. And my husband is one of those very quiet, but he'll say what he got to say, and then, like, okay, I ain't gonna talk to you about this no more. And there were times when I would be bawling in the bed because I didn't want to I didn't want to write this next section, or I felt like I was doing the same thing over again. And he would, come on, all right, it's okay. He would pet me up and he let me cry. And then he say, so you want coffee now, or you want me to wake you up early tomorrow? Because failure was just not it wasn't an option. It was like, okay, so you need a snack, you need some coffee, what you need. Okay, but we're gonna get this done. When is it due? Okay, so I'm gonna take the kids out. And I didn't have like little kids. My sons understood the process. And he would take them out and say, okay, we're leaving, we're going to the movies, or we're going, wherever. And when we come back, I'll have something to eat, and you're going to take a break, and you know what I mean? And so it was that consistent support. And then even my family, I had to tell them, okay, you guys aren't being helpful, asking me, okay, where we at now, where we at now. But they were so excited about this process and about watching me through this process that, I would get calls on a random Saturday. Hey, where we at? Where we at, Doc? I'm not Doc yet. We working on it. I got this many. Well, you said that they just reviewed it last time. Well, what's this review for? Why don't they just go ahead and give it to you? Because that's not the way this works. Right. So I had this whole village, and then I was introduced to a doctoral writing coach through social media, and she was the other part of my village who, and as another black woman with a PhD who was also a clinician, she was able to speak to a different part of the process for me. And she was the one who encouraged me, no, you need to take this time off. No, you starting to write the same thing over and over again. This weekend your homework is to do nothing. So I was fortunate enough to have all of those supports. And then I met some folks, because the way our program was structured, we had to do a residency a year for the first 2 years. And so when I went to Arizona, I met some friends. We became each other's support system, would call each other, exchange information and resources and things like that. So I consider myself very blessed that I didn't have kind of a lonesome process. I had a huge village of folks that I knew I could call on, who knew to a certain degree. I was the only one, I think, in my circle who had done this as like a working, married, with children adult. Everybody else kind of did it as their, went straight from their masters into, everything else. But the support I had was overwhelming. Even my clients, because by the time I finished, I had started my practice. I had clients who would say to me, okay, can we call you Dr. J now? No, not yet. Not. And there were a couple of my clients who, one of my clients had stepped away from her doctorate. And we were talking about it. And I was like, yeah, I know how that feels. She was like, wait, you're in it? No, I'm in it right now. Like, I don't have it. I'm in it right now. And I was able to help her. One of my good friends decided to go back and pursue her doctorate in theology, because she's like, listening to you and like just all of this stuff, it's now making me see that it's possible. So like, that's the other reason why you have to call me Dr. J. You can call me Dr. T, you can call me Dr. J, Dr. TJ, Dr. Tip. I don't care, but you're going to call me Dr. something, because this is my whole community that has come along with me. Like, I don't come, what is it? I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. Like, that is the motto of this whole process. And you can't do it in isolation. You will die if you try to do this without support. And so, yeah, you're not just putting respect on my name, you putting respect on all the folks who sacrificed to get me here. Like, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. Like, you can't handle me any kind of way. You're just not gonna do it.
Amen. And Dr. Tracy, because I know you have elderly parents, and that's how you and I kind of connect on that level. So what was your journey like? Because we never talked about actually when you started and finished.
No, we haven't. So I remember starting the program in 2006 and working through the specialist, and then finally so that I could stop and actually get a bump in pay for obtaining the specialist, while continuing to go through, and finished it in 2012, which was a couple of years longer than I anticipated. But at the same time that I started working on it, I started raising my niece. She was in Japan with her mom and stepdad, and she needed to get some more structure. And my brother was in between stations and about to retire. So, like, hey, she's going to come stay with you, because she used to hang out with me all the time when she was younger and when she lived here before. So raising a teenager who was a little troubled at the time, we worked through a whole bunch of stuff with a whole bunch of support, and we both graduated at the same time. She graduated May something, May 13th, and I think I graduated May 8th or something like that. We were right around the same time. So we celebrated together, but I did have a tribe of people around me who pushed me, who asked for all kinds of asked all kinds of questions about how they could help. And it's like, unless you're gonna write this paper for me, I'm not sure. You can bring me some dinner or something. And there were so many that did it. Sorority sisters, close friends, church members. Everybody was so supportive. And even my ex at the time, I remember him taking surveys to one of the schools for me, and they knew that they were coming, but he knew that he had to get past the gatekeeper. So he started buying chocolate when he went to go deliver them, and talking real sweet to the ladies and saying, you need to make sure that they get this because she needs this. And then he would go back and, had more chocolates to pick up the surveys. And so it was really, really good for me. Some of my colleagues who started after I did said, hey, you're done. You're really done. Give me those surveys. We're going to do the pre-survey with this group of teachers, and then you collect the data and do the analysis of the data, and then you're ready. And I was like, okay, then. All right. Because I was still slowing down, because I think at that point I was overwhelmed with what was going on with life itself. And that helped to rejuvenate me. And so when I was getting weary and I'm just tired of it, my tribe kind of pumped me up and kept me going. And I'm thankful for all of those people today. Some that I didn't even know were in the program with me, and others we rode back and forth to Hattiesburg, which is like an hour away, stopping by the little chicken shacks on the way, picking up food, eating it together as we were driving home late in each other's SUV. Sometimes it was 5 or 6 of us taking breaks together, and even, gathering around a group of 7 or 8 at my dining room table doing stat work and, just uplifting each other. And so having that camaraderie and support made it worth doing, but also looking at the people who supported me along the journey and those who were too young to understand the journey, looking at it and feeling empowered and feeling blessed to know someone, who has gotten it. And so now they feel like the sky's the limit for them. Miss Tracy got it. I'm Miss Tracy at home, but when I'm at school or somebody else, that's Dr. Tracy. That's Dr. Tracy. And they automatically turn that on without prompting. They've never been prompted to do that, but they got that from their parents, who were really, really proud and, showed them and discussed to them the importance of the journey and the outcome of what I had going on. So I did have a wonderful tribe surrounding me.
I know my journey was interesting because I started at Jackson State, and so a lot of people don't know that. And and Jackson State is an accelerated program, so I was in the urban higher education program there. And at the time, my aspirations was to be the president of a HBCU. So that's why I had enrolled in that program, and I was a professor at Southern University at Baton Rouge. And on one of my trips there. And so I understand what Dr. Tracy is discussing, because I would have to go on the weekends and you would have to stay, 3 nights in Jackson. And so that meant my kids would stay with my dad, and he would take them to school. He would cook dinner and all that stuff, fix breakfast. And one morning I got a call from one of my kids, and they were just like, Mom, Papa's not feeling well, and we don't know how we're going to get to school. And so then this meant that we had to call my crazy ex-husband, I need you to go pick the kids up. I need you to be a dad today and go pick the kids up and go see about my dad, and let me try and hurry up and get back to Louisiana. And so, when I got back and, had to rush my dad to the hospital, found out my dad was having kidney failure. And so Jackson no longer was an option because I couldn't stay away from him that long. And so then it was like my whole world shifted. But my dad said, will you see if they can get you in a program at home, but I don't want you to stop. And I was just like, but like, I got to take care of you. He was just like, well, yeah, you know, but I still need you to finish the big paper. Because when you get the big paper, you become the doctor. So that's all my dad knew, right? And so my dad was doing dialysis. He would still make sure that we ate. He was still trying to help out with the kids as much as he could. And me trying to get him to dialysis appointments, it was when it was chaotic, I tell you, it was just chaotic. But he would be my motivator. And I'll never forget, he was in a hospital once, and I was sitting there with a Mac computer plugged up next to him. And the nurse came in and they thought I was a medical staff doing something with him on a computer. And he said, oh no, she's working on the big paper so she can become a doctor one day. And so he was like, oh, you're in medical school? And I said, no, I'm working on my PhD. And my dad said, it doesn't matter. She's going to be a doctor. And he was like, so y'all do what y'all need to do, and she gonna stay right here and finish working on her paper. And I would be in waiting rooms with papers spread, journals all over the place. I'm trying to write a dissertation. And I do remember that I had a cohort that was very supportive. It was 5 of us. It was 5 of us, 3 guys and two women, but we were all African American. We were at LSU, and we were all finishing at the same time. And we would share books that we had and journal articles to help each other kind of get through the literature review. I was ahead of everyone because one of the things that they taught us at Jackson State was you start writing your dissertation from day one. So every paper that you write, you make sure is geared towards your dissertation topic. So my setback came with, I got my dad in the hospital, and my cohort started texting, and it was just like, well, are you ready for, like, we had to go in and do our, what is it called? The first defense that you do. And so I was just like, what are y'all talking about? And so they were like, you didn't get the email? And I was like, no. And they were like, next week we got to go in and like defend, you know, your research, what your research topic is going to be. And so yes, I was like, well, what does that mean I need to do? So they sent me the form. And so I was like, oh, all right then. So I took all the articles, papers I had written, because they was geared towards my dissertation, put them together nicely, went in there, and I had only 1 week to prepare, where they had been preparing for 2 and 3 weeks ahead of me. And when I went in, the first thing I told my committee was, you know, can y'all make sure y'all got my email address added to this? Because for some reason I got left off, and that would have thrown me off a whole semester. Not knowing that if I would have been thrown off an entire semester, my dad wouldn't have saw me graduate. And so I always say that everything happens in God's perfect timing, because there was no way I should have did what I did. Technically, I finished a PhD in 4 years. And that was studies, writing, and defending, and taking care of 2 kids and a dad that's on dialysis. And for me, the part that made me the proudest wasn't when I defended and they were in there arguing, because I had a committee member who didn't know what an HBCU was and didn't understand why I was doing qualitative research and could not do quantitative. And so she was like, I'm not signing off on it. And so, I got escorted out the room, and they almost was fist fighting in there, because it was just like, you don't get somebody to this point and say no. But for me, the biggest inspiration for me was when I walked across the stage, and then when I went to the back of the center and my dad was there, and he said, I got to see your name on the big screen, and they put doctor in front. And he said, so that means we finished with the paper, right? And I said, yes, Daddy, we finished the big paper. And he said, so we can call you doctor, right? And I said, well, Daddy, you can call me Carey. And he said, oh no, you Dr. Carey now. And that just made my heart and I never knew that a few months later, he wouldn't be here. And so when we tell people to respect us, that's what it's about. It's not us being arrogant. It's not us trying to down you because we feel you don't have what we have. But some of us literally sacrificed our lives and family members, and we went through so much that you will never know about if unless women like us come on and share with you what we had to go through. Because, like some people are saying in the comments, sometimes your family isn't supportive. My only family was my dad and my two kids. Everybody else in my family said, "Why you keep going back to school? You need to, you ain't got enough education. You oh, okay. So now you got a doctorate degree." And they'll sit there and be like, "Oh, you got your little degree? Uh-huh. Can y'all fix me to go play? Because I need to go. Because I'm about to cuss all of y'all out." You know. So your family isn't always going to be supportive. Your village is going to come from different sources. But we go through a lot of humiliation. There have been times when we wanted to quit, like Dr. J talked about. There have been times like, Jermaine has talked about, where you just felt like this isn't it. This isn't the program for me. And other things happen, like with myself, where you find yourself having to stop. And you have like Dr. Tracy, like all of a sudden she got a kid that ain't even hers that she having to take care of. On top of she commuting out of town. Like it's all these things that we go through, and we give up so much that people don't understand. And so I wanted to have this conversation today because I was so tired of hearing people on social media belittle Black women who had doctorate degrees and who would say, "No, you can call me whatever you want, but you need to put doctor in front of it." And so I felt it was important for you all to hear our stories and understand what we have gone through and what we are going through, what Jermaine is going through, for us to get to where we are today and why we are the experts in our fields. Why somebody like me got her pronouns as cite me and pay me. It's a reason. There is a method to what you think is our madness. There's a method to it. There's a reason why we do what we do. Now, as we close, because somebody threw this up in the comments, and I was like, we need to address this one, ladies. This one needs to be addressed. They wanted to
And
know,
quick, somebody said I put doctor. I'm not a doctor yet, Miss Brenda Lee Gertman. I'm not a doctor yet, so
she's
just
soon to
wanted,
be.
yeah, soon to be.
She's soon to be. So she still get it. Someone wanted to know, oh, here it is. They said they joined late, but they wanted to know, have we ever been called the angry Black woman when we demand that people put respect on our names and call us by our title of doctor? Yes, I know I have. I'm the problematic Black woman. I'm problematic. I don't get angry that much. I always get that I am problematic. That's what people call me. And I can say the grass is green, and they say I'm problematic. So, Dr. J, you ever got the angry Black woman? Which one you get?
I haven't gotten that yet, but I've heard it. I've heard people say it in my earshot. Um, and it sparks conversations a lot like this. What I have gotten was I was asked to join a committee. Um, and there were I was the only other person other than the committee chair that had a terminal degree. And that person, in the Zoom meeting, referred to me as Tiffany. What I thought was interesting was watching the faces of the people in the squares reaction, because literally every Black person lean back when she said, because on the screen down the bottom has my name. It says Dr. Tiffany M. Jenkins. And then I put in parentheses Dr. J. Um, and so she said it a couple of times, and every time she said it, one of the people on the committee just she was, and like you could see the face, and so I'm laughing inside, trying to keep a straight face because first of all, this is my first introduction to this group, so I'm trying to process in my head, okay, how do I address this? And the woman who was addressing me was a white female, and a older white female. And so the woman who was so taken aback was a black female who's about my age. So when she got done talking, she unmuted when the first person got done talking, she unmuted herself and said, "Yes, Dr. Jenkins," and like leaned in for the emphasis. So and I said, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. My name is, because she was introducing me. So I said, like she said, my name is Dr. Jenkins. This is what I do. This is who I am, blah, blah, blah. This is my role on the committee, blah, blah, blah. So she says it again. Thanks, Tiffany, for sharing. And now all three of the black folks are like doing one of these. Like if we were live, it might be some furniture moving. So again, one of the other folks, a black male that was on the call, said, he said, "Welcome, Dr. J." And so everybody is like emphasizing this. And so one of the ladies was muted, but I could see her face going, "What's the big deal?" And so when the third other black person, one of the black women came on, she said, "Is it Dr. Jenkins, Dr. J, Dr. TJ? How do you like to be addressed?" Because she saw what was kind of happening live in real time. And I said, I prefer, I said, I'm fairly casual. I said, but I prefer Dr. J. She said, "Okay. So Dr. J, this is my feedback on what you presented, whatever." No other word had to be said. However, I'm watching the other faces where every time somebody refers to me as Dr. J, there's a person in our screen that's just like, so I've never had that, like, and she didn't have the heart, I'll call it. I'm be nice. She didn't have the heart to say anything, but her body language spoke volumes. And I didn't really have to say anything because everybody else just kind of came in and said, no, this is what we gonna do and what we not gonna do. We gonna clean this up because you ain't been here before, but we in the room, so we gonna make it plain. From that day to this, and that was about 6 months ago, the person who originally started the conversation by addressing me as Tiffany now no longer has to be corrected. But that same person with the face does, like Dr. Tracy said, that Dr. J, like that, like, okay, let me call you this because I have to. And every time she does it, I just smile because I'm a little petty like that. So I just kind of chuckle every time I'm like, "Oh, excuse me."
I knew you had the petty in you.
Come on, Doc. I'm the nuck if you buck. Like, I got it in me. I got it in me.
This is my ride or die game.
And that's the thing that frustrates me is that people who really know me know that I'm crazy, laid back, fun loving, casual. Like, you can get away with a lot with me. Disrespect is not one of those things. Like, I love to laugh. I love to be silly. I love to cut up. When I need to put on that formal hat and dissertate and dissect and all of that stuff, I know how to do that too.
Very well.
I know how to do that, but that's not always what I lead with. So when I tell you that this is what I want to be called, you don't get to call me what you want to. But even before I got a doctorate, it was the same way when people used to try to call me Stephanie, not Tiffany. That's not my name. My name is Tiffany. It's not Stephanie. And outside of folks who are English is their second language, and I know that sometimes they struggle with that, like the pronunciation or whatever, call me Stephanie if you want to. Who answering? Not me. So this is not new just because I got another degree. You're not gonna call me anything and expect me to answer to. That's just no, no. And yes, I'm petty.
Yes,
I'm petty.
we can be petty when but it's not, we're not being, we're not trying to be disgruntled. We
No.
just reached our limit, and so our pettiness will sometimes show up and show out.
And I
Doc,
got petty cousins because this is what they buy me for
yeah,
gifts.
yeah, yo people,
I got petty cousins, so
you got petty family. Dr. Tracy, have you ever found yourself being called the angry Black woman when you've insisted that people refer to you as doctor, like in a professional setting?
No, not for that.
For,
By the way, Dr. J, my husband stood up and he said he was clapping for you. I haven't been called the angry Black woman for that. No, I think they find other things. I've been called complicated.
yeah.
Um,
See, you complicated. I'm problematic. Jermaine.
I mean, no, but it kind of sometimes it'll be, I don't say gaslighting, but it'll just be a thing of like, oh no, I didn't mean it like no. Like if I say something and then it's like, no, like, yeah, I'm coming across as, but what I'm correcting you on, that's not what they meant. That's not what they meant. I don't see color. No, that's not what I meant, because I don't see color. You don't?
We
Okay.
all see color.
When
If
you
you
became
don't, you
colorblind,
colorblind.
I didn't know that, because your
Right.
outfit match. I'm just joking. So anyway, so I've kind of had that, and then especially up here in the north, it's not that I'm angry, but my excellence makes them uncomfortable to where to where they I don't know, it's like I've had that. It's like, being around me made them not feel good. And so they didn't, it's like everything I said was like upsetting, because it's like, I made them feel like crap because of my excellence. And I'm just
And
like,
again, that becomes that's their issue. That's not
right.
your issue or
Yeah,
our
so
issue.
so it's never, they're not gonna come out and say that, but then they'll deflect it or be like, no, that's no, I don't see color. I didn't mean it that way. Oh my God, Jermaine, like no, like I didn't mean it like that. It's just like,
And you're like,
oh
yes, you did, but okay.
yeah,
Why?
right. So because the thing is that then if they say angry Black person or you're acting this way, then it's like, then you really get on them and they're like, no, like I'm not racist. Like I'm not that.
Oh, so
So
that's
that's
all us problematic and just
yeah.
confrontational, or just
Yeah.
complicated, or all
Yeah.
that's what all of that. That's the nice way of saying you really the angry
Mhm.
Black woman. That is just become
Yeah.
not. Mm.
I like
Right.
what you said about, your excellence. And so it's the excellence you require of yourself and those around you. So I have a new
Mhm.
secretary, and she didn't tell me this, but she kind of messed up and told some of my other staff members that there are a few people who said, "Are you sure you want to go work for Dr. Hardy? Are you sure?" And she said, "Why?" And they're like, "Are you sure?" And I was confused because everybody around me has been there. Those that have left either died or retired. So I'm not really sure. There's something right going on, but they know that the requirement for excellence, the demand, you left the period off or the comma off. We're not just going to mark it on there. We're going to redo it because we need to be right, because we have to be right, because we're highly scrutinized. And when they send something to me to review, they're like, okay, here's your pencil because we know you're about to write. Well, so let's do it right. And so her response to those is like, yeah, I'm sure. That's why I really want to be here. I want that demand on me. And I was like, you get a high five, because everybody, they can't take it because they don't want to be held to a higher standard. And so that comes with, you know, the complicated part, the angry part, the demand to be called a certain way. It's the demand for respect and the expectation of yourself and those around you to be excellent, because being subpar is not what we need to do, and is going to be treated as though it is much worse than just being subpar. You know,
But
see
we
there, I
also
told
don't
you.
have that option.
No, you don't. You don't.
We're scrutinized heavier because we have a terminal degree, because we have doctor in front of our names. And what it took for us to get here, we couldn't be subpar. Like, we had to always be above average. And as you've heard tonight, our circumstances that we have had to work through to get to where we are helps you to understand why we have those expectations of those around us. Because it comes down to, if I can do it, anybody can do it. If I could do it through the conditions I had to do it through, what I'm asking of you is minor.
Right.
This is little compared to what I had to go through
Right.
to get to where I am. And ladies, as we close, someone said this, and we gonna go after this. But this is something I've had someone tell me. I'm tired of folks telling us to drop the doctor name to find employment in corporate America. Never. And Dr. Griffin, you are so right. Because when I started off, I finished my PhD and went back into higher education. Things happened and I had to leave higher education. And I've talked about that before. And so for 6 years, I was out there looking for a job and would not get any callbacks. And, later figured out, okay, I got ageism, racism, sexism, and any other kind of ism they got out there. I got all of that going against me. And I had a conversation with my younger brother. And he said, he's one of the few people who call me Carey. He said, Carey, he called me by my first and middle name. So, he threw them all up in the mix, and he said, girl, you might need to stop putting doctor in front of your name. You might need to dumb down your resume, take some of your education off and your experience off, get in the door, and then bring it to the table. And I said, I loved you since the day you was born, because I'm your older sister. There'll be a cold day in hell before I drop any education, any experience, because I had to work hard. And I said, and no disrespect, because you're an engineer. So I always said him, he's smarter than me. And I said, but I had to work harder than you simply because I'm a female. I'm a woman. I had to work harder than you to get to where I am. And I said, I can't do that. And I said, so if that means I got to get out here and get it in the mud and figure it out, I'm going to do that. But I'm not dropping doctor. I'm not dropping no degrees. I'm not dropping any job experience. If I'm intimidating the bot that's got to put it on human resources desk, then that bot is going to get intimidated. HR going to get intimidated. The hiring manager going to get intimidated. And that just means I don't need to work for that company, that organization, or that institution of higher education. I don't need to be there. But never, and I say this to anyone out there, and I don't care what degree you have, you never dumb down who you are to work somewhere, because what does that say about them? If you have to dim your light to make them feel good about who they are and what they do, that's not the place for you. And sometimes that means that we have to carve out spaces for ourselves, and we have to create our own opportunities. And that's what I had to learn in that 6-year time span, is that I had to create a space for Dr. Carey Azid and all of her brilliance and her glory. And I don't have to dim it down. If someone doesn't like what I bring to the table, guess what? I work for myself. If we're not a good fit, I just move on. I'm not going to change who I am to make you feel good so that you can invite me to have a seat at the table. Because guess what? I got a bigger table. that's been polished down with some pledge. I don't need to sit at your table. I got my own table that I built, and it's got a whole feast. And I bring women like this to come sit with me at my table each and every day. I don't need you. And so we have to get to that point where we have to stop begging people for opportunities. And sometimes we have to create our own opportunities. So Dr. Griffin, you right. Don't you no, you don't drop nothing, don't you change nothing. You show up in all your glory,
And
all of
say,
your
I
glory.
be damned.
And say, if nothing else, let me call Dr. Carey and see if she can add another seat to the table and I can come sit over there with her. Because I will make room. I will
Somebody
always.
said somebody said hashtag table of greatness with pledge. I love it.
Because you know we're from the South. You got to pledge it down on Saturday mornings with some Al Green playing in the background. Hey, hey, old school. If I ain't told y'all my age, now you know my age. My mama played Al Green on Saturday morning, and she had the pledge. She had an old rag. Y'all about to wipe my house down, and we go dance and sing along. To don't know what Al talking about. That's all right. Just singing and clean. But yes, so as we close out tonight, I want each of these ladies, if you're not following them, they're all on LinkedIn. So make sure you're following them. And I want you to check out all of their websites. Check them out. So Dr. J, where can they find you?
Here on LinkedIn or at www.awakeningchange.org. Um, all of the information about me, the services I offer, are there. You can also find me on other socials at Awakening Change LLC.
And Dr. Tracy. And tell them about your book too. Where can they find you?
Cool. Tracy Daniel Hardy, PhD on LinkedIn, SaturdayScribbles.com/book-stores, where you can purchase a signed copy of the book. You can also purchase the book on Amazon. The title of the book is called The Adventures of Butch and Ruby, Chronicles of a Caregiver.
Yes. And Jermaine, where can they find you?
They can find me, of course, here on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram as Jermaine Gordon Coaching. And yeah, that's all I have going on right now.
Y'all look, Jermaine being modest. Y'all need to know how to eat healthy. Go follow her. Cause
On
she
Instagram.
on
Go follow
Instagram,
me
she
on
do
Instagram.
videos. She got cooking videos. So when I need to get my life together, I'll call her and just be like, "Girl, how you fix this and how you make the healthy version of it?" So she is that person. So yes, she's the intellect on here, but on Instagram, she gonna help you get your whole life together as far as
Yeah.
eating and living a holistic, stress-free life. She is your
Yeah.
person to follow. So when all these people getting on your nerves with these microaggressions and these biases, follow Jermaine over on Instagram. She will help you.
Yeah.
She came on here drinking some drink, telling us that what was that?
Pomegranate juice. Like I said, Jermaine Gordon Coaching, and I'm going to be adding a blog for parents who have kids with who are, the new term is neurodiverse kids with learning differences. So I'm going to be adding that soon.
Yes. And Dr. Tiffany, what's your book? Because you got a stress reliever book too.
The book is called Reclaiming My Time, A Black Woman's Guide to Self-Care, and you can find it on the website, www.awakeningchange.org.
Yes. For those of you, again, if you don't know who I am, where to find me, drcareyaz.com. That's where you can find all of my controversial articles that gets me the label of I'm a problematic Black woman. Check them out there. I also have my fun blog that's a retired hot girl, and it's a retiredhotgirl.com. So I talk about everything that's non-confrontational and problematic over there, talking about life over 50. And I'm always here on LinkedIn, raising hell, making people think and pushing y'all out of y'all comfort zone, because that's what I do best. So I want to thank all of you again for joining us tonight. And this is the longest we've ever been. So I just want to say thank you for hanging there with us. Thank you for the great conversation. And if you're watching a replay, leave your comments. We cannot wait to go back and read them and engage with you all. But again, thank you again. And I hope, if nothing else, tonight we've helped you to understand why Black women insist that if we have a doctorate degree, a terminal degree, what our journey was like. I hope we've helped you to better understand that, and that we're not coming from a place of arrogance, but we're really coming from a place of, we're really being humble, that this is not just for us, but it's for family members and generations. And that, you know, we're experts at what we do, and we just want people to respect us and give us the respect that we have earned. Not that we're demanding, but that we have earned. So again, my name is Dr. Carey, and thank you for joining me and my fabulous guests for another episode of Pretty Powerful Conversations.